Should you use a Spotify promotion service? It's a pretty controversial question. If you Google Spotify promotion and tack on Reddit to the end of that Google search, you'll see that a ton of people in Reddit threads will tell you that everything to do with Spotify promotion is a scam, that you should just run as far away as you can and avoid them at all costs. If you Google Spotify promotion and actually scroll down through the companies that appear on the search results, you'll see that they all promise seemingly the moon. They promise like 1 million streams, and things that seem too good to be true. What is the truth? Is it Reddit? Is it the promises that some companies make? Is it somewhere in between? On this video, I'm going to get into it. I have used over a dozen Spotify promotion companies at this time, and I think I have a pretty good handle for when Spotify promotion is worth your time and when it isn't. So let's get into it. Okay, so before we get into the criteria that I think you should use to decide whether or not Spotify promotion is right for you, I want to unpack two things that'll be helpful in our discussion in this video. So first is that there are two types of Spotify promotion. When people say Spotify promotion, they're usually referring to one of two things. The first thing, and probably the most common thing that people think of, is paying a company to pitch your song to third-party playlist curators. So these are people who own playlists on Spotify. They put your song on the playlist. Your song gets plays by being on a Spotify playlist. That is the first way to do Spotify promotion. Then the second way to do Spotify promotion is to basically run paid ads from usually Facebook or Instagram, sometimes TikTok, to your song or your profile or playlist on Spotify. So they're basically paying money, setting up ad campaigns, and then driving traffic to your Spotify. Those are the two ways to do Spotify promotion. Now, I'm going to focus most of the conversation in this video around the first way, which is third-party playlisting, because if you Google Spotify promotion, that's like all that comes up. I do think that both methods work and can be effective in the right circumstances. I also think that both methods can be a huge waste of money if you do them badly. But I'm going to focus most of this discussion around the first one. Okay, so I recognize that a lot of people are skeptical as to whether playlist pitching works. That is totally a valid position to hold because a lot of playlist pitching campaigns don't work. But I have run a lot of playlist pitching campaigns that have worked, and I'm going to show you one of those right now. So this is my brother's song called Hopeful. And we ran my head's in the way. We ran a campaign on Playlist Push for this song about a month after it came out. So it's actually annoying. I can't set it longer than a year. But you can see, so right here, this was right before we ran a playlisting campaign through Playlist Push for this song. And you can see it was at around 60, 80, 50, between 50 to 80 plays a day generously. And this is only a year, but you can plug this into Chartmetric or something and see too. It literally was sitting at this for like months after release. So it was just flat. Then we ran a Playlist Push campaign, and you can see here's the spike. This is the month of Tom's song being on playlist through Playlist Push. And then bam, he got taken off all the playlists. So that's what happens if you run a good playlisting campaign. You'll be on those playlists for maybe a month, and you'll get that spike, and then you'll dip back down. But so here's the reason that I think these campaigns do work, and I hold that opinion, is a good playlisting campaign. This is what you'll see. You'll be, very low streams. You'll run the campaign. It'll spike. And then when you come back down, you'll be at this new normal where you can see we're getting like 400, 300, whatever. There's a 505. My head's in the way, but still getting hundreds of plays a day after he was getting less than 100 plays just from running this playlisting campaign. It set it at a new normal after that spike. And the reason this happens is because if we go here and look at the source of the streams for this song, you'll see, some of it's still from playlists. We haven't paid for a campaign after the initial Playlist Push campaign, but we have been just added to random playlists because the song is now out there. But a ton of it is from Spotify algorithmic playlists. So a third of it is from Spotify just showing the song to people because it was able to generate data, figure out who would like the song, and then show it to more of those people. And so if you go to the playlist that the song is listed on, the number one playlist over the last month is radio. So it's just Spotify adding it into people's radio playlists. Then we have Daily Mix is another big one. And then you can see we didn't pay for this placement. I don't know how he got on this, but someone found it through radio or Daily Mix or just something random. So he's got on some other random playlists just kind of randomly for this song. But the main thing has been that just first spike. The month got screwed up again. The main thing was just that first spike, and then we've just been sitting pretty ever since then. And so that's why I've seen this happen. I would say this happens maybe 1 out of 5 to 2 out of 5 times you run a playlisting campaign. And so that's why I consider these services worthwhile. I've seen this happen enough times for enough artists that I know that it works. If you work with a good company, if they run a good campaign, if the song hits, like there are a lot of factors involved, but it definitely can work. And so I just wanted to clarify that before we jump into deciding whether or not it works for you. Okay, so with those two things clarified, we're talking about playlist pitching, and you're basically tracking with me that playlist pitching can work. The next question is, will it work for you, or when is it right for you to actually use one of these services? And here are the 3 questions that I think you should ask to determine if it is right for you. The first question is, what are your goals? And maybe a better way to say it is, do Spotify streams even matter in the long term of what you're trying to do? I think there are people who are in 2 camps. In the one camp are people who are more or less just hobbyists, if you're honest with yourself. Like, you're making music for fun, and maybe you have some kind of dream, like hazy dream, that down the road maybe it would be something. But for the most part, you're just doing this for fun. And if that's you, that's okay. I think that's actually a great place to be, but I don't think that you should necessarily be spending money to promote your music on Spotify if you're just making music for fun. Like, you're not going to get hugely famous. Spotify streams are like a long-term investment toward building a sustainable career. And so if you're not planning on doing this seriously for the long term, and your goal is just to make music for fun, probably not worth your time and money to spend on Spotify promotion. The other side of that, though, is if you are trying to make a serious career out of making music, you don't necessarily need Spotify promotion as the way to do that. Most of your revenue will not come from streaming numbers. You should treat streaming as basically a way to get more people to hear your music. I mean, streaming platforms are how people listen to music nowadays, and Spotify is a great way to show your music to more ears because of its algorithms and things like that. But with all that said, like, you don't need Spotify to get more ears on your music, and you definitely don't need Spotify to monetize your music. So if you're looking to make a sustainable career, I would think through what the revenue channels you are going to use are going to be, and then I would think through how Spotify streams will support those revenue channels before I would just spend a ton of money on Spotify promotion. If you have thought through your strategy and you know that you want to use Spotify as a source of getting new ears on your music, and you are willing to commit to pursuing music over long term, then I do think Spotify promotion can be effective and is worth trying for you. The second question I think you should ask is, how much time and money do you have? And really it comes down to weighing those two things. So if you have like a day job or you have a full-time job and you don't really have any time, but you have an income that you can put toward investing in your music, then I think Spotify promotion can definitely be worth it for you. If you don't have a huge marketing budget or you don't have a lot of money to spend, so you're basically like most musicians, then, I mean, honestly, it's probably not worth your time to invest in Spotify promotion, because I do think it is a long-term game and you're probably going to want to do multiple campaigns before you really feel like it's worthwhile. And secondly, there are things that you can do if you have more time than money that don't cost money. They just take your time, and you can kind of achieve the same results that you would by paying a company. There are different ways to pitch curators. There are different ways to run ads yourself. So you don't have to pay a company. It's just basically a way to save time and get people who are good at doing something to do it for you. And then the last question I'd ask to determine whether or not you should use a Spotify promotion service is, what's your release schedule look like? Are you going to be consistently putting out music over the next year, over the next 2 years, over the next 3 years? Or is this album, did you put out an album and that's the only thing that you had planned? If you're in that second boat where you just put something out and you don't have anything to follow it up, I would not spend money on Spotify promotion. I would spend money on making more music, because ultimately the thing that drives everything is going to be consistently putting out music. Now, if you do have a backlog of singles, if you have a backlog of albums that are just waiting to be rolled out, I actually do think it's worth your time to invest in Spotify promotion, because it ideally should be a series of stair steps. So each release, you should get the spike, and then I'm going to move my hand so I don't hit my mic. You should get the spike, and then it should be a little bit higher. The next release will be like a little bit higher. That was kind of awkward. But that's the idea, is that this is a long-term spend. It's not just a one-off where people are going to find your music and then love you forever. It makes more sense if you're going to be doing this regularly and consistently. So to recap, if you have a goal to get more streams, and that is part of like a long-term career-oriented goal where you understand what you're trying to do as a musician, Number two, if you have enough money to spend realistically on a marketing budget, and we're talking a couple $100 a month. And number three, if you have a consistent release schedule planned out, so this isn't just a one-off spend, but you have multiple singles, multiple albums coming out over time. If you can answer those three questions that way, then I do think that Spotify promotion can be helpful for you. And if that is the case for you, I have a blog article that I'm linking in the description below, and I walk through 12 Spotify promotion companies. I've used a bunch of these. I've run like dozens of campaigns at this point, and so I walk through my results for these different companies, and I think that hopefully will be helpful if you're looking at different options for running a campaign. Hopefully one of those will be a good fit for you. So I hope this video has been helpful if you're thinking about working with a Spotify promotion service company. Remember that Spotify numbers aren't the only thing. It's so easy to get caught up in the metrics. The whole point of using Spotify promotion is to get real people to really hear your music. And the most important thing is just to make meaningful music, because music is valuable in and of itself. So whether you choose to use one of these companies or not, here's wishing you good luck, and here's hoping that you keep making good music.